is Katie Mortimer. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm the Executive Director of Field Education, Grants, and Admissions here, and I'm your Chair of Admissions, so welcome. We are so excited to introduce you to our cohorts here for our Csun MSW program. And we have lots of our folks here to introduce you to all that we can offer. And I'd like to introduce them to you, if I may. But before I get started with that, a little housekeeping. Yes, it is going to get a little warm in here. We're hoping it stays cool. The restrooms are out the door and to the right, both men's and women's. And there's drinking fountains as well. Please hold your questions till the end. I promise we're going to try and get to each of your questions with our fantastic presentation. But more importantly, we're all going to stay around as we can to make sure we get all your questions answered afterwards. So please know that you will not leave here with more questions. Okay? All right. So welcome. Again, my name is Katie, and I'm going to have my colleagues all, if they would, stand up and introduce themselves. I'm going to start right here with the fabulous Marjorie Chase, who tried to jump on the counter. And that includes colleagues in the back, if you would. Please stand up so that you can introduce yourselves.
Hi. Welcome, everyone. My name is Marjorie Chase. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm a field liaison, which means I teach the field classes in our program.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jessica Rubakava, she, hers, and hers, or she, her, and hers. My apologies. I am the Admissions and Student Engagement Coordinator, so we will be working very closely throughout this whole admissions process. I'll be here to answer any questions that you have.
Hello, Dr. David McCarty-Kaplan, full-time and tenure-track faculty here. I teach predominantly in the macro policy areas of our curriculum, and I'm excited to chat with you all.
Hi everybody, my name is Julie Gould. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am the CalSWIP project coordinator, and I also oversee our mental health stipend program and teach in, I'm the lead instructor for the trauma class.
Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Jody Brown. Pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the director of online offsite programs, and I teach primarily in the research sequence.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Jolene Swain. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am the director of field education here. I also teach trauma and macro practice.
Good evening, welcome. It's so good to see so many beautiful faces tonight. My name is Dr. Alejandra Acuña. I'm an assistant professor, and I teach in the UNOM Csun cohort. I teach in the research sequence. I teach macro and micro level courses.
Laura? Hey, Laura. Oh.
Hi everyone, I'm Laura. I am the office manager, so when you guys go to, if you guys ever stop by, I'll be there to assist you with any questions that you might have.
Hello everyone, good evening. Darlene Wu, assistant director of field education with our online offsite program. Welcome.
So welcome. I just was hoping our fabulous dean would introduce himself as well. He tried to slide in. Nobody missed it. Dean Searcy.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Yam Searcy, the dean of the College of Social and Behavioral Sciences, and I'm also a social worker.
Yeah. You should know the president of our university is also a social worker, so we are full of a house of social workers. Wonderful. So our first person who's going to speak to you a little bit about our program is Dr. McCarty-Kaplan. It's you.
Hello, how we doing? Good. I am so stoked. There are so many people here for our first info session of the year. It really gives us a lot of energy to see this many faces and people interested in what we're doing here. And it's kind of a beautiful thing to kind of look around a room like this and get a sense that everyone in this room is considering dedicating your life to supporting communities in need, representing the underserved, anti-oppressive practice, whatever your thing is, we're all here trying to help communities and be part of a social justice movement that I think is pretty much the most inspiring aspect of what social work can and should be. But what a lot of us may not understand is just how broad the field is. I mean, my guess is part of why you're interested in this field is to get a sense of where you're going to be most effective in the pursuits that you see in your future. And this is a unique time in social work. We're in this moment right now where what is commonly understood of social work is just a small portion of actually what social work really is. This field is broadening like you wouldn't believe. So if you haven't considered this already, I mean, in my experience, most of our students come in with a direct service, clinical practice intent, or at least that's how they understand social work predominantly. But I would challenge you to consider thinking about what other things social work includes. And there's a little bit of a representation of that right here. So I want us to start there. Social work is incredibly broad. You can be a social worker and be a community advocate. You can be a community organizer. You can be a policy analyst. You can be working in a policy think tank. You can be a researcher. You can be an academic. Apparently, you can be a dean of a university and a president of a university as a social worker. You can be a clinician. You can be a direct service provider in a variety of ways. You can work in hospitals. You can work in schools. You can do almost any, well, you can work in almost any contextual situation where people are working with other people to support human need, and that can be social work. Just as a little example, there are now libraries that are hiring social workers, which is a really beautiful thing because a lot of our clients go to public places like libraries for either respite or for time with their kids or what have you, and we're exploring ways that social workers can be professionals in those contexts, right? There's also a lot of for-profit companies that are starting to hire social workers to examine the intersections of for-profit business and social responsibility. So what I'm challenging you to think about is open your eyes a little bit to all of the possible ways in which you can engage in helping communities in need. So for us, we hope to be a way for you to develop and grow your capacities with this intent. And we've been exploring how we're doing that a lot lately through redesigning our mission statement as a program. So you see up here the department mission statement, and we just rewrote this past year. We spent a lot of time as a department developing how and why and through what methods do we provide you with the skills that you need to be basically a wonderful professional in the social work field. And what we're trying to focus on these days is really anti-oppressive, training you to be anti-oppressive, socially just agents of change in a community that you think is in need of your collaboration, right? And we're trying to do this specifically through theoretical and practical lenses that involve anti-oppressive practice, that involve social, political, and systemic change. We're trying to examine and understand our place as individuals in systemic oppressions, right? So a big part of social work isn't just what you're gonna do and who you're gonna work with. It's a lot about exploring yourself and where you sit with regard to problems or issues you see in your community. Now my guess is most of you probably come from a personal experience that has led you to this room today, right? Whether it's a personal lived experience, some struggles your family went through, some struggles a loved one went through, some struggles you went through. Or maybe you've been touched by a professional worker in some context that inspired you to contribute your energies to this world as well. Whatever it was that brought you here, what we're trying to do is find the love that you have for helping your fellow human, the ability you have to see the humanity and empathize with anyone else other than yourself, to activate that and charge you up and give you all the skills you need to feel like you can be the most effective agent of change possible in your future. Now, we do that through what's called a generalist practice approach, which means that we're trying to hit you on all levels of social work, which means micro level, meso, macro levels of change. What that means is if you come here, if you choose our program, we're going to be talking about how you work with individuals and families. We're going to be talking about how you connect to communities or small groups or work within organizations like nonprofits or community-based organizations. And we're going to talk big picture stuff like research, community change, policy change, political action and social movement engagement. So we're trying to show and express through what we do here that social work really is not just something that happens on micro or meso or macro levels. It's really, those are, in my opinion, false divides. What we're trying to do is give you the skills to be effective at any one of those levels of change and to recognize that actually they're all intertwined with each other. You're not going to be an effective micro-level practitioner unless you understand the systemic oppression that your clients are facing. And you're not going to be an effective community change organizer, political activist, or lobbyist unless you understand the lived experiences of people going through those systems, right? So we're trying to present you with an opportunity that will respect who you are as an individual, give you an opportunity to reflect on yourself, and then power you up to go figure out where you're going to be a badass social worker in the future. So that's our mission, and we hope that we reflect that, and we hope we attract you to what we're doing here. I really feel like this program is unique, not only in this state, but in this nation, and I'm so honored to work with these lovely colleagues of mine here I really feel like we're putting all of our effort into creating a social work program that reflects what social work could or should be in the future. And I really hope you'll be able to join us with that. So thank you very much.
It's a little contagious, right? It's a lot of eagerness. So yes, everything he says. And the truth is, we're also very aware that there are a lot of acts in town. There are 8 other MSW programs in just the Southern California region that we work with collaboratively. And we are very aware that you have a lot of options that are very different than ours. So tonight we're going to give you an idea of what our cohorts look like, all of our cohorts across online cohorts as well as our campus-based cohorts, to give you a sense of what we're about. But please know that we also just want to set the fire of getting folks interested in social work. So Dr. McCarty-Kaplan talked a little bit about our mission statement and how we have reworked that. We also want to acknowledge that we're going through the process of reaccreditation. The reason this is relevant to all of you is because if you're looking at MSW programs, you should be looking at CSWE accredited programs. Those are the programs that are going to be up to standards for all of the 9 core competencies that we have as a nation looking at our social work education as the standard for social work education. And that's a process we're going through. We've been accredited since 2007, and we are going to stay accredited because we're fantastic and we're going to nail this accreditation process. But we also want you aware that that's a process you need to be sure is a part of any program that you look at, okay? The other thing I want to tell you is that we are very excited to have you here. We're going to see lots of our faces, and we look forward to talking to you after. Jessica.
Hello again. I love all these friendly faces right here. I'm so excited to see all of you. I hope you're all excited to be here. For those of you who walked in a little later, welcome. Come on in. There's lots of standing room. See if you can find some, make some friends with your neighbors here. Also, if you did not sign in, we will have the opportunity at the very end. There's a clipboard, I think, passing around. There it is. There's a clipboard passing around. We also have a laptop where you can put in that information as well. So don't worry, don't try to jot down everything we're going to say. We're going to throw a lot of information at you, but know that if you do put down your email address, you will get sent a copy of this presentation, and then we'll also have a link for the video in probably about 2 weeks or so on the website as well, for you to reference that as well. But again, my name is Jessica. I am the admissions coordinator for the on-campus programs. And so we're going to talk a little bit about the programs here, then we're going to talk about the online programs. I'm going to bring up Jody Brown in a few minutes to talk about the online program, and then I'm going to be right back here with you, and we're going to walk through the application process and what that looks like. So we do have 4 different cohorts. We have 2 on-campus cohorts, a 2-year and a 3-year. We have our online 2-year program, and then we also have an UNON program, which is with the University of Mexico. So we will talk about that. We do admit around 150 students each year total, give or take some. And the reason why I tell you that is part of our admissions process is we want to be transparent with you. So I'm gonna tell you right now that we do admit around 150 students. We get about 500 applications. That's about a 20% acceptance rate. I saw eyes go, woo, it's okay, don't freak out. That's why you're here. You're here to learn how to make yourself a better applicant so you can become one of those 150. But again, I just do say that to make sure that I'm transparent with y'all of what this kind of process looks like. So for our on-campus 2-year program, something to note, all of our programs have the exact same number of units. It's the exact same number of classes. The order in which you take them, the times that they are offered, that is what's going to differ between these cohorts. And also, yeah, the times that they're offered. So we have 20 classes, 60 units for our on-campus 2-year program. We have you on campus in class for 2 business days a week. You can see the first year here, it's Tuesdays and Fridays. Your second year is going to be Tuesdays and Thursdays. I do have our field requirement, which Jolene Swain is going to talk about, but just keep an eye on that number. It's going to come back a little later. But something else I want to draw attention to is the tuition. So for your on-campus 2-year program, it's approximately $16,644. There's always an asterisk at the bottom in case university tuition goes up. We also have to raise our tuition, but that's a good ballpark for the full 2 years. That is the cost of the 2-year program. And for our 2-year program, we are going to admit about 60 students to our 2-year program. So for our on-campus 3-year program, again, same classes, 20 classes, 60 units. These classes are offered 2 days a week, but only in the evenings. So you got your 6 to 9:45 or your 6 to 8:45 class time. Again, field requirements are down here. We will go over that in a little while when Jolene comes up to talk about field. But the tuition is about $27,754, and again, that's for the full 3 years. So I'm going to bring up Jody Brown to talk about the online program.
I don't know how to work these. Hi, everyone. Okay, so for online, same as the 2-year on-campus program, except you're doing it in your pajamas at home, right? So that's why we do that. Classes for the online, it's again the same 16 units that Jessica was talking about, 16 weeks. What's interesting here is that we do classes over 8 weeks, so you would have 2 academic classes in the first 8 weeks of the semester, 2 academic classes in the second 8 weeks of the semester, and then your field class happens over the course of the entire semester. That's for all 16 weeks of the semester. And again, those classes are happening online. We do not require that online students come to campus. You're always warmly welcomed, but we do ask that you review the Zoom sessions, and so they happen via Zoom in that sort of area. Field requirement, Jolene will talk about more, but it's 16 hours per week for both years in the program, first and second year, and tuition is about $45,000 for the 2 years.
Yes, and we'll bring up Dr. Acuna to talk about UNAM real quick.
So, thank you. So this is our second year or second generation of running this partnership, and it's really exciting. It took so much planning, but right now we have 5 Csun students and 8 UNAM students. UNAM stands for Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. So that's the private university in Mexico City. So this is a partnership that we have. All 8 plus 5 students take 2 classes with Csun professors, 2 classes with UNAM professors online all year. In the summertime, students, so UNAM students just came up this last summer to do their field practicum hours here in LA. Next summer, our Csun students will go to Mexico City to do field practicum hours. So anyway, if you have particular interest in this cohort, I'll stick around after and you can talk. Ask me or Jolene or hit us up via email afterward. But this is exciting, and it took about 2 years to build up, so we're really happy to have this.
So the way that UNAM will work is you will need to be admitted to the program first, and then you will let us know if you are interested in this cohort. So let's say you are interested in the 2-year on-campus program and the 2-year online program, and you decide to go with the 2-year online program, but you are interested in UNAM. So we send out some emails, you let us know if you're interested, and that way, if you decide to go to UNAM, then you can go ahead and do that, and if you decide after the info sessions, maybe this isn't what I want to do, then you still have your online spot if that's the program that you chose. So this is a really great opportunity, something we're really excited about. It's going really well. The students are really excited, the ones who've come to Mexico, from Mexico over here. So that's kind of what that cohort is about. So now we're going to bring up Jolene Swain, who's going to talk about field education.
So field education, what is that? You'll hear people talk and refer to it as the internship portion of the MSW program. It is actually just about a half of your credit units in the MSW program, and it's where we like to say the rubber hits the road, and I'll get more into that in a bit. But in 2008, CSWE, which is our accrediting body, and Katie spoke about it a little bit, kind of highlighted field education in all MSWs as the pedagogy of the MSW program. And so what does that mean? Pedagogy means best practice. And so field is highlighted in that area, so they kind of look at all the programs in their field education programs, like, what are you offering? Well, most schools offer the same thing, but this is where you get to practice everything that you're learning here in this brick and mortar building out there in agencies, which we like to call the field lab. And so it's an extension of the program, but it's out in the community. And so we place students all over the state because of our online and off-site programs, as well as in all the counties. And I think it's 52 counties in the state of California. So anyway, and so it field happens over the course of your MSW experience. And so that means you have 4 classes total in field. And field education is a course. It is a course. The field practicum is a course. So So you will have your field internship, and then you take a field class here, either on Zoom or either on campus throughout the academic year. And you stay together with your field faculty person over that course of that academic year. In your first year, as you can see, first year for everyone, no matter what cohort you're in, except for UNOM. UNOM is kind of off track, and so I'll talk about that separate. But everybody is in placement 16 hours a week during the business hours. Now, most social workers, the vast majority of social workers, like to work kind of 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. The ones that work in the evenings usually are on call, or that work on the weekends are on call. So they don't typically like to take students because they are working at odd hours. So I want you to start thinking about this now, because this is always a challenge for students who we know may have to work during their MSW program, but we at least need you to be able to give us 1 8-hour day that you can do your field placement, a consistent day per week. We work with over 450 agencies throughout the whole state of California, and that's where we place students, and we try to place students as close as we can to where you live. In your second year of your program, you will, depending on your cohort, the 2-year cohort, you'll go to 20 hours per week. If you're online, off-site, you stay at 16 hours a week. And there's a whole interview process that you go through in your second year. Your first year, we place you. And that'll be based on a lot of information, demographic information, area of interest, what you've done before, and we kind of put that all together, and we see where you should be placed in your first year. Because most human beings are we're creatures of habit. And so if you've been working with children, what do you think you would say if we gave you that option in your first year? You would say what? I want to work with children, right? And so, and we want to teach students to be able to work with people throughout the life cycle. So that's 0 to death. And so that's important because it's all an integrated experience, and we believe in systems, and so families are systems, and people belong in systems, and communities are systems, so we want to give you that experience. And so, Julie's gonna come up. This is part of, it kind of runs through field, but it's, our stipend programs are a little bit different, but she's gonna talk about that now.
Hi everybody, how are you doing? Good. You're hanging in? You're not feeling over in the heat? Okay, so I'm gonna talk to you just a little bit about some of our stipend options. The first thing I wanna say, and I have been told I've been scary, I kind of cultivate that, so it's sort of purposeful. I want you to hear that stipends are not specifically a source of how you pay for your education. All of our stipend programs, and I'll run over them real quickly, are connected to a specific area of practice within the social work profession, and the intention of those stipends is to bring social workers into that portion of the field, okay? So when I talk a little bit about the money can sound really good, but we're not looking for someone just to take the money, we're looking for someone to make this their path within the social work profession, okay? So I oversee the CalSWIP Title 4U program, and we also have another program which is very similar, which is the DCFS, LA County DCFS stipend program. Those are both 2-year stipend programs where there's a certain amount of money that students receive each year for participating, and when students graduate, they have a required 2-year employment obligation once they graduate. So you have to get a job in public child welfare and stay for 2 years. If you do not stay, you have to pay that money back. If you do stay, and you're fully salaried and benefited employee during that time, then you've met your contractual obligation. So when we talk about public child welfare, we are very specifically talking about child protective services, so the folks that go out and investigate child abuse and neglect. It's not just that you care about the well-being of a child, so that counts. It's specifically this part of social work, okay? with both of those programs, students have to be admitted into the MSW program first, and then they will be sent the application to apply, and we actually also hold an info session, sort of like this, where we talk about the stipend programs in much more detail, okay? So those are the only 2 stipends that you can apply for as an incoming MSW student. The other 2 stipends down below are stipends that students are eligible for as they are beginning to enter or plan for entering into their second field placement. Okay, they're both 1-year stipend programs. The first one is with LA County Department of Mental Health. And again, the stipend has money attached while you're in school, and then when you graduate, there's a certain set of criteria a job would have to meet to count as your employment obligation, and that's a 1-year obligation. And then we also have a stipend related to working with older adults called GSWIC. That is a stipend program, that is the only one that does not have a actual employment obligation attached to it. But again, its intention is to bring folks into working with older adults, okay? So with the second 2, students hear all about that as we begin to enter the second-year field process. There's no way to apply for it as an incoming student with those with the bottom 2, just the first 2, okay? So far so good? Yeah? Okay, I think that's the only thing I'm saying right now. It is. Okay, excellent. I don't know who's doing this. Oh, Jody. Yes. Oh, sorry.
I'm back. So if you want to apply, how do you do that? And it's different for online and on campus. I'm going to talk to you about online, and then Jessica's going to come back and talk to you about on campus. I need my 3 volunteers. Katie, David, Julie, thank you.
Oh, I didn't know I volunteered.
Yes.
Oh,
Jolie's good.
Oh, Jolene, good. I didn't realize that I volunteered.
Yeah. Thank you.
I look confused.
You're gonna look, that's not. All right, so Katie really wants to apply on campus. She knows she has no interest in online whatsoever. She's only interested in on campus. So Katie's gonna come stand over here. We don't care about her right now. We'll care about her later. Okay. Jolene's not sure. We're gonna get back to her in a second. David knows that he wants to apply online. Yes. Okay, we like that. Okay, so David is going to go and he's going to apply via the same college application. There are 2 different applications. If David applies through the Cal State Apply application, he won't get in online. He would be over here with Katie. Exactly. Okay. So we want, if you're interested in online, you need to apply through the same college application, not Cal State Apply online. Not that. No, not that one. That one. We've got Katie on campus. Okay. And then there's Jolene. She's the one we're really interested in right now. She's the one who represents, thank you, you sitting here saying, I'm not sure, I don't know. You know, on campus would be great and it's cheaper, and online would be awesome because I don't have to put on clothes. And this is, so I'm just not sure. Yeah, from here up, right? Without people walking through shiny please. Okay. So with Jolene, what we want her to do is we want her to apply, walk toward me, the same way Katie would. Okay? And then there's going to be a little box that you're not out there all alone. Not all alone. But we want her to apply via the on-campus, via the Cal State Apply application. And then there'll be a little box that you can check that says, I'm interested in potentially the online program. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
So we have another faculty member who just walked in. He's being whispered right now. I'm going to introduce Dr. Alan Lipscomb, who is just going to talk a little bit for a second about social work.
Hello, everyone. Hello. We're excited that you all are interested in our program. So I'm Dr. Alan Lipscomb. I'm an assistant professor here in the social work program. I teach in the research sequence, I teach in the human behavior, and I teach in the practice sequence. I'm running in between. I've just finished teaching an online class, and the next one starts at 7 o'clock, so that was good, that little demo. What was it? A little bit about the program. You know, one of the things, what was it, 2 falls ago, we revamped our mission statement, which I'm sure you already heard about that. And we're very proud of that. We're very excited of what we not only say we are about, but what we actually do and how we follow through with that in cultivating our student skills around being an anti-oppressive social worker at the micro, at the meso, and at the macro level. I think we have a great program here If I could do it all over again, I would definitely come to this program, and I'm not just saying that because I teach at this program. I really believe that we are doing something that is unique. Unique in the profession, unique in the discipline, that is social work. And so if you have any questions, feel free to email me. It's alanlipscomb@csun.edu. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have about online and about campus classes. I teach both. Thank you.
So it's me again. If there is space, I see a lot of people in the doorway, and I just want to make sure that everyone can hear. So if you want to come, there's like some space over here on the wall that you can come and hang out at. I just want to make sure you're here, that you get all the information, and that you can hear all of us. So please do come on in, find a little space. There's a couple seats at the front over here. There's one right here. No one wants to come here. I won't. I'm not scary, I promise. In fact, I'll move back. How about that? I can move. I can go anywhere. That makes me feel so much more comfortable. Okay. Okay, so we learned so many things right now. We learned about the MSW program. We learned the terms micro, meso, and macro were thrown at you. You learned about field education, what your internship is going to look like, what those hours look like, what that commitment's going to be, and you got excited about that, about hearing that you're going to work with a different population, right? Right? I'm going to pretend like you're nodding. You learned about the stipends, how you could potentially fund your passion and not your education. And then we had a wonderful demonstration about how to apply to online, how to apply to on campus, or how to apply to both. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about how to apply on campus, which is what Katie was standing here and demonstrating for us. And then I'm going to dive into the application and what that looks like. And we're going to walk you through step by step on what you need to do. And if there's a part that differs for the online and the on campus, I will make sure to note that for you. But the components are mostly the same. The materials that you are submitting are the same. So let's get started, because I know you came here to see me talk about all this juicy stuff of how to get into this fantastic program. So how to apply. For the on-campus programs, you're doing 2 applications. One application is to the university, and one application is to the department. So the department application, the link is going to be found on the MSW website underneath the admissions tab. And that link will be posted on October 1st. So all applications, regardless if you're applying to on-campus or online, they're all going to open on October 1st. The university application is going to be through CalState Apply. Again, that link will be found on our website, and that again will open on October 1st. For some of you who graduated from Csun, who are currently a Csun student, you'll still need to apply to the university, because this time you are applying as a graduate student versus before you were applying as an undergraduate student. So please do note that you still need to apply to the university even if you graduated from or are currently a Csun student. So the university has their own set of requirements separate from the department. So for the university requirements, you have to have a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university prior to fall 2020. So if you're currently still a student and you plan on graduating in the summer or in winter or fall, fall 2019, that's fine. Or spring 2020, that's also fine. You just need to complete it before fall 2020. You need to have at least a 2.5 GPA overall in your undergrad, or 2.5 in your last 60-90. So what that means is, let's say your first semester of college, you didn't know what the heck you were doing, and classes were really hard, and you didn't get that great of a GPA. But you killed it later on, so your overall GPA may not have been 2.5, maybe it was a 2.49999, which is not a 2.5, because we don't round, unfortunately. But your last 16 units, you got a 3.0, you got higher, you got something, that's what we're going to look at. So just one of them needs to be a 2.5, and it can't be a 2.499 to infinity and beyond. It has to be a 2.5. So that's the GPAs, and then you have to be in good standing at the last institution you attended. For those of you who did not graduate from a CSU, you will need to take the WPE, but not right now. Nobody go out and register for that test. You're only going to register for that test if you are admitted and if I tell you to. So, or if Gretchen Serrano, who's the online program coordinator, if she tells you to. So don't take this exam right now. Just know that if you didn't graduate from a CSU, it's something that you're going to have to take in the future. So CalSA Apply, like I mentioned before, it is the on-campus application, and you will be sending your official transcripts to the Admissions and Records Office. Please don't send them to the MSW office. It has to go to the university. And those transcripts can be sent electronically from your school to our school. They have this University Magic Connection thing where they can send each other transcripts, or you can do them, mail it to them, or you can get the envelopes given to you and dropped off to the Admissions and Records Office. However you get them there, just make sure that it goes to the Admissions and Records Office. This part right here. I'm gonna say this about, 523 times throughout the rest of the presentation. Activate your Csun email address. This is the only way we're gonna communicate to you any information about your application. Whether you missed something in your application, whether you're getting invited for an interview, which I'll talk about in a second. Everything is through the Csun email address, not your portal. So, let's say you graduated in 2011 and you decided to come back. Guess what? It's the same Csun email address. So if you don't remember it, you can call IT, they can reactivate it, and if you're brand new to the Csun, you're gonna get a Csun email account as soon as you submit your Cal State Apply application. So please do activate that as soon as you can. Check that on the regular, have it forwarded to your personal email address. Again, now I gotta think about 493 more times that I'm gonna mention this throughout the presentation. But again, I highlight this every year just because we wanna make sure that you are getting the information that we are sending to you. Okay, so the department application. These components are gonna be the same for on-campus and online, but again, I will tell you the difference between the two processes, if there is a difference. Before the department application, program cohort preferences. This is where you're gonna tell us if you're unsure and you don't know if you wanna do the on-campus 2-year program or the online 2-year program, or if you're just like, nope, I just want the 3-year program, or you're like, you know what, I'll take anything, check all the boxes. This is where you're gonna let us know what you would like to be accepted into, or what you are applying to. It's gonna have basic applicant information, but hey look, you're gonna enter in your Csun email address, and then you're gonna put your personal email address as well as a backup, but only as a backup. Your emergency contact information, your academic history, where you went to school, what your transcripts were, all that fun stuff. And if you were in a previous social work program or a different graduate program, please let us know in that application as well. There is an applicant contract. You will read it, download it, sign it, and re-upload it. Please do read it as if you're agreeing to follow all the department university policies and procedures in regards to admissions and field placement. It's not scary, it's like 2 pages. I promise you're not signing your life away just for 2 or 3 years, and that's it. So, not too scary. Your recommendation letters. So, we ask for 3 total. If you have graduated 5 years or less, we ask that there are 2 academic and 1 professional. And so for the academic, it can be a professor, it can be a TA, it can be a counselor, but it needs to be somebody who's overseen you in an academic capacity, who's seen your academic performance. The other one is a professional reference who has overseen you in some sort of professional capacity, who's supervised you. It can't be your favorite colleague that you go to lunch with every Tuesday. It has to be someone who's overseen you in work. If they can oversee you in a specific project, if you don't want to do your direct supervisor. The professional can also be from a volunteer experience, an internship, an unpaid type of work, just again, as they make sure they oversee your work in some way, shape, or form. If you graduated over 5 years ago and you're not in contact with anybody who can speak to your academic abilities, those 3 references can be from professional folks. Please no relatives. Your mom loves you. Your aunt loves you. If your first job like me was working in a kitchen for your aunt, even though she was my supervisor, she was also my aunt. So I would never be able to use her for this reference. So please do kind of keep that in mind when you are picking your references as well. And really pick your references for someone who's gonna write a letter and tell us how fantastic you are, that we should be begging you to come to our MSW program. We wanna hear how great your grades are, how professional you are, how you show up on time, how you handle all different things. Make sure you're choosing those folks when you're looking for the references. So this is for on-campus only. Upload them to the system. And so what that means, what that looks like, it's like the second page of the department application, again for the on-campus program. There's 3 different boxes. You put in their name, how you know them, and their email address. and then you click submit. And as soon as you click submit, magical interwebs happen, and they get an automatic email sent to them saying, hey, Jessica asked you to be referenced. And they give you all the instructions for them to create a profile and then upload that letter. The cool thing is that you can check their status. So if Dr. Lipscomb is my reference, and I sent the computer sent him the thing, I can see when he's got it, and then I can see maybe he hasn't submitted it yet. So I can send him a nice little email to remind him to submit it by January 10th, which is the deadline for the application. Because unfortunately, if all 3 of your references aren't in by January 10th, your application is incomplete. So please make sure you're politely nudging your references, using that system tracking of when they're going to submit it to make sure it is in by January 10th. So for the on-campus program, this is confusing, but let me say it. For the on-campus program, no paper copies. Everything needs to be submitted online. Okay, but for the online program, it's paper and it's mailed. So it's opposite. Opposite day. But to help you with this, on our admissions tab of our website, and if you haven't visited our website yet and looked at the admissions tab, look at everything. Click on everything. There's hyperlinks, there's instructions, and there's also admissions checklists for each different application system. So the online application system has their own checklist with instructions on what you need to do for that application through Sing College. And the on-campus one has everything that you need to do if you're interested in on-campus, and if you're unsure and interested in online as well. So please make sure you're following each checklist respectively to the program that you'd like to apply for. So that's recommendation letters. I spent a lot of time on that because there's a lot of questions. And so if you have any questions at the end, we'll go over them as well. Transcripts. So we will need your official transcripts sent over to the University of the Admissions and Records Office. And then we need your unofficial transcripts for the department. So the reason why we ask for the department application to have transcripts as well is the university gets transcripts for everybody. So they get it for our program, for all the other undergraduate programs, for all of the other master's and doctoral programs on this campus. So by the time we get the transcripts, it sometimes takes a while. So we want to see your unofficial ones so we can kind of take a look at that and see what we're looking at. So for your unofficial transcripts, if you're a Csun student, it's really easy. Go to your portal, download your unofficial transcripts, save them to your computer, and upload them to the department application. And same thing, similarly, if you went to another university, I'm sure you can access them some way online just to get your unofficial ones. For your official transcripts for the university, please do order them as soon as possible, especially if you're mailing them, because sometimes it can take a minute for them to find their way over to the Admissions and Records Office. So your work experience summary. So we'd like to see any paid, volunteer, or internships you have in the field of human services. So some of you are sitting there and you're like, well, wait, Jessica, I've never worked in human services before. My last 10 years haven't, while I've been going through college, has been working at Target. Well, you're interacting with humans, right? Unless you work at like a robot-only Target, which is really cool, and I like to hear about that. You're interacting with humans. So you're having customer service. Think about all the transferable skills that you can put on this work experience summary, which is set up like a resume, but we call it work experience summary, so you don't just upload your resume, because we're looking for specific things here. But we want to know every job you've had. We want to know if you worked at a restaurant, and then you worked at Payless, and then you worked at Borders, and then you interned at a nonprofit. That's my resume. We want to know that stuff, because all those are transferable, and you're interacting with humans on a daily basis. But the reason why we call it work experience summary is, can you see this thing right here? Those total hours, it's kind of weird. I don't know what that is. We're looking for this. This is not on a normal resume. We want to see the total number of hours that you've worked at your job. So if you have worked at the Csun Pride Center from May of 2010 to, oh no, that's April. April 2010 to May of 2014, 40 hours a week, your total is 8,320. Now, math is not my strong point, and I am not asking you to do all these calculations to get the point something something decimal of the hours. Give it your best estimate, but make sure you do include this for every single job, every single intern, every single volunteering experience that you have. Again, it's pretty standard formatting here. You can take a look at that. And make sure you've included any training you've received. If you're CPR certified, we want to know. If you are motivational interview certified, we want to know. Let us know everything about you to see what your journey was before you got to us, before you got to our door. So that's the work experience summary. And again, if you look at that checklist, there are examples and instructions specifically for each of these components that I'm explaining to you. Personal statement, this is my favorite. So every university that you're applying to is going to have a different personal statement. Some of them want to know about the day you were born and how middle school was for you and this whole long narrative, and we're not looking for that. We have 6 questions, and we want you to answer all 6 questions. So for personal statement, it's gonna be 5 to 7 pages total, double-spaced, Times New Roman, yada yada, all the format you can see there. But it's gonna be in question and answer format. So again, 6 questions. And while you're writing your personal statement, ask yourself, did you answer all the questions? Did you answer all the questions in their entirety? Question 3 has A, B, and C. Did you answer A, B, and C, or did you just pick C? The right answer is A, B, and C. Just a quick note. Does it reflect you as a person? Has someone else read it? Is it written kind of through a social work lens? Does it look like you're a future social worker? Does it highlight your strengths and experiences? Please do kind of keep that in mind while you're writing this personal statement. And as you're writing it, does question 6 get answered on page 8? Because if it does, we're not going to read question 6. We're going to stop at page 7. So please do make sure that you are keeping to the 5 to 7 page limit. And if you're stuck, if you're sitting there and you're writing your personal statement and you're like, I know I want to go to Csun and get my MSW, and I know I want to be a social worker, but I have no idea how to answer question 4. In this PowerPoint that we're going to send you all, these links down here, beasocialworker.com and learn how to become a social worker, go to them, get some inspiration. They're going to tell you a little bit about the field, what it's like to be a social worker, just to kind of get those creative juices flowing so you can get back and write a killer answer to question number 4. I don't remember what question number 4 is, I just picked a number, but just for example purposes, that is what I meant. So that's a personal statement. If you are an international student, we need you to take the TOEFL before you turn in your application, and you'll need to get an 88 or higher. If you have questions about that, please let me know. You can also contact the International Admissions Office. There's some really friendly folks there that will be able to help you if you have questions about the TOEFL and about those requirements. So deadlines. For on campus, our preferred deadline is November 29th, and our final deadline is January 10th. For online, notice the deadlines are different. So for online, the preferred deadline is November 19th, and the final deadline is January 7th. So you know you're sitting there and you're like, what's the preferred deadline? What does that mean? All that means is that when you submit your application, we will let you know if you forgot to upload something. Or let's say you uploaded your personal statement twice, instead of uploading your work experience summary and your personal statement. We'll let you know what you're missing. We're not reviewing it for content. We're not telling you, hey, you could answer this question better. We're just making sure that everything is there. It's not going to guarantee that you hear from us sooner. It is not going to guarantee that you get a spot into the program. It's just, again, a courtesy to see if you've submitted everything. But if you're sitting there and it's November 28th and you're sweating, and also November 28th happens to be Thanksgiving. So if you are, or if it's November 29th and you are Black Friday shopping and you can't get this application in, I get it. It's important to get those deals. I totally understand. Hold off until January 10th because we want to make sure your application is the best. So don't try to rush into that preferred if it's not fully complete in what you want it to be. But again, it would make my life easier if you put it in preferred, but this is not about me, this is about you. So again, so those are the deadlines. Keep in mind for that. We will let everyone know whether you get in or unfortunately if we're not able to take you by May 15th of 2020. And guess what? Hey, look it. It's the Csun email address. Who missed it? I did. Again, everything will be sent over to your Csun email address, so please do check that for anything, any part of the application. And because we just get so many applications, unfortunately, we'll not be able to accept any late applications or any incomplete applications. So I know some of you are sitting there thinking, wait, you mentioned an interview, but you didn't talk about that. So the interview portion of the application, what happens is we get all these applications, we review them. If you meet a certain criteria, we'll call you back for a group interview, which sounds scary because I saw some of you go, group interview, what is that? The group interview is really for us to kind of get a feel of who you are, what you look like outside of paper, but it's also a really good opportunity for you to get to know us a little bit better. We have some really amazing folks with us here today. We have a whole big faculty that will be coming and doing these group interviews as well. So grad school is amazing, and it's going to be 2 or 3 years of your life, though. So you want to make sure it's a good fit for you as much as you are a good fit for us. So that's the reason why we do the group interviews. To my knowledge, I think there's one other campus who has copied us and decided to do group interviews. I know, gasp. But we're really the only university in the area that does group interviews. And so for that reason, that's why May 15th may seem like forever away from January 10th. It's just because we're reading all those applications. but trust me, I will try to get back to you earlier than May 15th. Sometimes it looks like May 11th, but I will try my best to get all those information, all those application, all those admission decisions to you no later than May 15th. So those are our deadlines. And now we're going to bring up Honey, and she's one of our alumni, and she's going to talk to you a little bit of her experience in the program. So welcome, Honey.
Golly, this is a really full room. I thought there'd be about 6 people. I'm a little nervous, forgive me. As we're being filmed, no jokes and no swearing. Okay. So, hi, my name is Honey Bianchi. I'm a graduate of 2016. Right? And I'm still only 23. I did the 2-year on-campus program. And trust me, I'm still looking through that going, how did I manage that application process? Because I come from London, and so GPA, I thought, are they asking for my gross personal average, you know, my worth, or what's a unit? Is it alcohol? So that whole, sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I'm talking about rubbing alcohol for salt. So I was super confused by the process, the online, the campus, the cohorts. I still am not entirely sure. So how I got in is, thank you so much, universe. My experience was I worked in the music industry for 150 years, thereabouts. So I was working with crazy people in an entirely different setting. And then I decided that I wanted a change of career, and literally I thought I want to do something that I can do sitting down when I'm 85 and the brain's working but the body ain't collaborating. And so I thought therapy. So I became a therapist in the UK, and I loved it. And I got to a point where I thought, right, I've kind of done it. I've been in rooms, I've nodded sagely, I've acknowledged, I've validated, I've recommended, I've got paid, it's lovely. And then I look around going, there's so much more that I could do with this client, and I'm sitting in this room and it's beyond my scope of practice and boundaries and competence, and I was just very frustrated. The other thing is London, it'd be raining a lot, and I wanted to just thought, you know, while I'm at it, and I'm not too old, let's go get some sunshine. So Los Angeles was a place for me, and for my music business years, I knew a lot of people here, so that network really helped in supporting me getting through that. So I did my research, and this is one of the things that I love, that you're in the right place. I didn't come to Csun because I love matadors personally. Sorry if the dean is still here, it offends the Jesus out of me, but that's another story. I was looking for a program that was diverse, for one. I was looking for a program that was supportive, so I kind of tested the waters, and I'm still testing them now because I still ain't gone away 2 years and something later, about asking questions. So there's no such thing as a stupid question. If it's in your mind, ask it, ask it. This is your investment, this is your future, this is your next step. I literally did 2 trips to America, and I went to USC, UCLA. I didn't have fancy shoes, so I couldn't think in your campus, I couldn't stay. I went to all the CSU campuses, up to Santa Barbara, down to San Diego, I think. I got very confused. What I really wanted, and I didn't understand what Generalist was, but what I did understand is that I didn't want to be tied into a second year, you will be working with this population or that. So one of the things that I would also super recommend is when you're doing your research, you might now, as a lot of people do, think, well, I want to go into therapy, I want to be a clinician, I want to have that direct service. But as I'm very fond of saying, one of the things that I was open to, because I wanted to squeeze everything out of the program, Mama was paying for it, so I wanted to squeeze everything, was I started falling in love with with research, which I never thought I would do. I thought it was for geeks in white coats, sorry. So I really do. But actually I started thinking, what's happening? What's at the core root of the macro systems? How do we understand how to change things differently if we don't research the data, etc.? So I also participated in a ton of the events. I really wanted to get the full 2-year experience. I was exhausted. But one of the things that I would recommend you do is, like I said, do your research, find out what you want, what are you seeking, what are those steps next, but also do the research around all the other areas of interest, that you're not tied into just one area. As Dr. Kaplan pointed out, so many different areas. I think, when police stations are now hiring social workers, it's a big step forward. All right, some of my other notes, no, not my red shirt, not really red. The other thing I would say is, look around you. You have a room of potential social workers. Start networking. So look around, a lot of you have come in groups. Start networking, start gathering names. You might be in the same cohort together, so you've already got a strength in that, and that's part of being a social worker. What can you expect to change? I can tell you about me that before coming from colonial whitey land, I never would have noticed that the email address is john.smith. Can we change that to something not so colonial and British? That's what happens when you're a social worker. Suddenly your lens changes in ways that you would never have thought about before in terms of what happens to the person that doesn't have a voice, what happens to the community that needs support, what other ways can we work together to find funding, for example, which is a huge area of social work that we needs development. All the compliance, QA stuff, somebody's got to do it, and some people love it out there, and goodness knows it's super, super, super needed. At the moment, I'm a director of a foster care program. I kept hearing, and I still hear, and I say to myself sometimes, the system is broken, there's so much that's wrong with it, and yet foster care, you actually need somewhere to be, and they need supportive people, and so that's where social work comes into it. You don't abandon the field. I'm happy to stay afterwards. As you probably can tell, I love the sound of my own voice, so I'm happy to stay afterwards for any questions you may have about, I can tell you about my experience and certainly of my cohort. We're still really a close-knit community. Nobody else has been through the experience other than us in that particular cohort, so if you have any questions, I'm super happy to ask. I stay behind and answer them. Thank you.
Bring up Dr. Acuna to talk about Social Work Society.
So this is our Social Work Society board from last academic year. And so you can see the diversity and the strength. They do incredible things for the cohort, and they do a lot of fundraising. And this is actually a picture. This is me as Batman. So Dr. McCarty Kaplan and I went to lobby days in Sacramento. This is something that all schools of social work do across the state of California. We go up to Sacramento once a year, and we get practice and training in lobbying our state representatives on specific bills. But anyway, this the board is instrumental in raising money so that as many social work students as are interested can go affordably. But I wanted to throw this back to Honey, who was actually on the board of the SWS when she was a student here, to talk a little bit about her experiences.
See what I mean? They can't get rid of me. So, okay, so clearly I was that young when I joined the board. What do you do as part of the board? You just promote social work. So again, it's being super creative. It's fundraising. So I don't know what we didn't cook and sell during that time to raise funds, but we supported people who couldn't afford to go to lobby days. We put some funds, I think, towards some scholarships and some grants. We put some money, I think, towards a community event. So it was really a way of, and this is something that you're going to come across again, unless you go straight into private practice, and even then I think you're going to come across it, how to work as a team. And one of the things that happens when you're online, offline, campus, whichever way you do it, singing and dancing and tap dancing, you've got to be part of a group. So you do group projects, and so you've got to get on with that person that, dang, they're just looking up car parts and machine guns. This happened to me, true story. Going, this person is going to drag the team down, and yet you've got to work with them. So that's part of the lesson of learning to work with groups and teams in the future, even when you don't get on, so it's that good practice. But it really was so much about empowering and advocating. So for many, it's the first experience to have their own voices and have their own experience of leadership. But it's incredibly creative. I found the experience to be rather autonomous. There was nobody sort of saying, you can do this, you can't do that. Short of burning anything down, which you never do in California, of course, we really had a free hand to do a lot and to really write what was a social work society about, what did we want to improve, what did we want to address, were there specific projects that we came across that we were lobbied for to raise money for, and so, you know, while we're making tamales, we're actually also raising money amongst our cohort and out in the community and linking to community resources. And this went far into the northeast San Fernando valleys, down South LA, so we went right across the board. For me, it was a super learning experience just to know where things were, but also just to meet some amazing people and an incredibly humbling experience for me. That was my experience.
McCarty Kaplan. So what we started hearing about just a few moments ago is kind of what we refer to as the implicit curriculum of social work education. One way to understand an MSW program is by examining both the implicit curriculum and the explicit curriculum. The explicit curriculum is what we do or what we teach and how we teach it in the classroom and in the field, right? So your syllabi, the things you read, the teachers you have, the classroom experience, the field placements you have, that's all the explicit curriculum. The implicit curriculum is everything else. It is the learning environment provided to you. So what we're talking about hopefully creating here, one of our biggest objectives is to not just focus on the hard skills, the classroom-based stuff, but to also provide you with an opportunity to build community, right? And that's a big part of what the SWS does as well. They're our leadership body. They're in charge of collaborating with the various cohorts, making sure people feel included, making sure that there are events both here and in the community for people to engage with, so that you really get a sense of being part of a group of people that have shared ideals and values that will become not only your colleagues in the future, but hopefully a number of them will be your friends and confidants as well. So I can say from my experience when I was doing my MSW program, the best thing I got from it were the collaborative relationships that I still carry with me to this day. And in order to have that, you have to kind of dial into being part of this community. So we're trying to provide you with a number of opportunities to do just that. So a leadership opportunity like the SWS is part of that. Also, just being an SWS member, which is something you can do as a student, just allows you to be more engaged with your student groups as you're part of this program. In addition to that, what we do is a variety of different events, which you'll hear about, some of which you've heard a little bit about already. The first is the We Are Power Community in Action Conference. This used to be what we called Diversity Day. It's an annual event that takes place over an entire day that is student organized and student funded, right? And it has had a variety of focuses over the past number of years, things like critical race theory, LGBTQAI rights, immigration, trauma, disability justice, and mental health. What's the topic this year?
Carcerality.
Ah, yes, carcerality. So issues with incarceration and kind of the prison industrial complex, all that drama, super important. But the point is, we provide not only the students that get involved and volunteer to organize this event, but also the entire community. Students from our program or the surrounding communities are all welcome to participate in this day-long event. It has speakers, it has art, it has music, it has training, it has interactive conversations, discussions, it has panel presentations, it has guest lecturers that are experts in their field, should they want to come join us. So that's one example of something we do that really is geared towards contributing to a community that is inclusive and reflective of the diversity and kind of social justice action-oriented communities we're trying to suggest we're part of. In addition to that, we have lobby days. Now this is a particular thing for me because I'm the faculty lead for lobby days. Again, this is predominantly a student-run event. What it entails is for those that are interested in figuring out how the passions you have for social work can be enacted in the context of political lobbying or social justice, kind of social action, political action, this is something that you might want to consider. What it is basically you'll give me an application for why you want to be involved in this, and then we basically fundraise to get a bus for about 60 students to all drive up to Sacramento, and the bus trip is legit. It's like people are chanting, figuring things out on the bus. Very kumbaya, it's awesome. And while we're going up to Sacramento, we're also preparing ourselves to be trained for a full day in Sacramento on 3 specific policy issues that are most likely coming up for a vote or some particular moment of opportunity. And then we gather with all MSW students from around the state. So there are hundreds and hundreds of MSW students from all the programs in California. Whether you're with us or not, I encourage you to look into lobby days, whatever program you choose. It's just a beautiful event. So you spend a whole day training in Sacramento, and that will give you that sense of actually being capable to sit down with a legislative official and sound like you know what the hell you're talking about when you're talking about one of these 3 issues. So then you band in a team of 3 or 4 other MSWs, and you actually set up schedules to go sit with a legislative official or their staff member. And then you go and you sit and you talk about these 3 issues. And then lo and behold, change happens immediately after that, right? But it's one of those experiences that I think really challenges you to see big picture issues, like why are the things that you care about important to discuss with somebody who's in a position of power. I'll tell you right now, most of our legislative officials do not have the time or expertise to know about or care about the things we do. So it is incumbent upon us to get our feet in those doors, our bodies in front of those people with power, and let them know what's up. And from that position, you can really open up people's eyes to different issues that they may not have seen before. And when you can come back from a trip like that, and within a few months you actually do see policy change that is directly resultant from the actions we took, it's a beautiful moment. People talk about policy being dry or slow, and that is just not my experience. So this is another example of our community coming together, banding together, enacting our power, and then coming back feeling stronger together. And at the very least, you get a weekend to chill out with your people and come back and then kind of decompress. And everyone kind of feels a little bit closer after that time. Yeah, and now we'll hear a little bit more about docs and talks.
Okay. Hi, everybody. What's everyone doing? Hanging in there? Right. So, I'm Marjorie. It's good to see you all. So I just want to say, honey, I remember you at our info session.
No.
Yes, we were facing that way. You were sitting over there. I remember talking with you.
See what I mean?
She came here from England, so I'm very excited to see her again. So yeah, just to kind of follow up on what David was talking about in terms of that implicit curriculum, sort of those extras, the things that make your social work education and experience that much richer, that much more wonderful. We have other kinds of activities that happen, not just kind of once, a one-time shot like a conference or the one weekend lobby days, but we have other activities that happen, kind of throughout the year, and that all students are, welcome to participate in, both just coming and attending, but also being on the student committees that help form them and kind of put them together. So just a couple of them. We have Docs and Talks, and it's exactly what it says, and they meet regularly. A documentary is selected, students come in, they get to watch the documentary together with a faculty member who is the, kind of the sponsor of Docs and Talks, and then there's a facilitated discussion, and I think they have popcorn as well. I believe popcorn is served, so, there you go. And another regular feature is our Lunch and Learns, which I believe, at least historically, they've always been the Tuesday, kind of the lunch break. Great for the campus-based students who are here, and they have that lunch break. For the students who are in other cohorts, such as our online cohort, of course, welcome to come, don't have to come.
And we do Brunch and Learn online on Saturdays.
And we do brunch. I didn't know that. You're fabulous. Okay, we need to add that to that.
And we can zoom.
And they can zoom in.
And they can zoom in as well. So we want as much as possible to include everyone, that everyone has the opportunity, and we know not everyone is always available, but that it's there for you and that you're welcome to participate and really enhance and enrich in that social work experience and that social work education experience. All right. And oh my gosh, graduation slide. So let's not get ahead of ourselves, but there you go. In just, let's see, if you apply and you get, in just 3 or 4 short years, that could be you. And I love these pictures because they just, to me, they capture, these people accomplished amazing things. They completed their social work education. They did 2 amazing internships where they had an impact on the community. They did a capstone or a graduate project where they learned about research and all that amazing stuff. But the fact is that they were already change agents in the work they did, and they're all going out into the world and making a difference with vulnerable populations, and in fact making the world a better place by choosing to become social workers. So I'm just excited that this is here. And that's all I've got to say about that, I think.
Just want to point out real quick this picture right here, all these happy faces. These are faculty. These are, oh no. Okay, here we go. Happy faces. These are your faculty. These are the folks who are going to be teaching you and helping you along this journey, and that are just happy to celebrate with you when you get to graduation. Good morning.
All right, so first I want to say I can't believe that everybody has stayed, standing, sitting in every capacity. Thank you so much. We so appreciate it. This is the fullest house we've had in info session, so thank you. I also just want to say, we're going to stick around and answer your questions, but please know that you're sitting there and you're worrying, if you are, about what if I'm an English major, what if I'm a history major, what if I'm a queer studies major, what if I'm a statistician, an engineering major. We really need everybody. We need folks who are good with numbers. We need folks who are researchers. We need folks who are ready to yell loud and proud or write for the best of them. We need all sorts of different folks. So please feel like you can show your strengths and your transferable skills. There is no bad major to come and apply for a social work degree. So that's everything. Again, we're gonna stick around. A lot of us are around for different specialties, whether it's admissions questions. You have field internship and stipend questions. We have UNOM questions. We have the goddess of all things online. There she is. Research policy. So please stick around if you have questions about any piece of this. If not, expect the PowerPoint to come by email. See yourselves on the recording when that comes, and we really appreciate your time. Yeah, want to do a couple group questions yeah, let's try a couple. We'll take 2 or 3 or 4. Yes, sir.
Well, in reference to the stipends.
Yes.
And the 1 year or the 2 year commitment.
Yes.
And you're trying to get your clinical hours to
Yes.
get your license. What obligation does that commitment have to help you get your clinical hours, your 1,500 hours?
Great question.
It depends on which stipend program we're talking about. If you're a child welfare stipend recipient, it is possible, at least in LA County, to get those hours, but you will not be getting them your first year. Your first year at DCFS, you are on probation, and during that time, you're not eligible to get supervised for hours. But remember, it is a benefit that they offer their employees to be able to provide hours from supervision, but their goal is not to make you a clinician, because that is not part of your job at DCFS. Okay, so that's one piece. With the DCFS stipend, obviously, that is about becoming a clinician and providing mental health services.
Which one?
With the Department of Mental Health stipend. I may have said DCFS again. I did, sorry. We've got DCFS on the brain. With the DMH stipend, obviously, by definition, that is part of getting those hours for licensure. Okay, but that year or 2 years, depending on which stipend we're talking about, of employment obligation, whatever that organization's process is, would be part of it. We don't set that. All we said is that you've signed an agreement that's a legally binding contract that says, in response for getting this money, I'm going to do this 1 year or 2 years, depending on which stipend it is. Does that answer it?
Thank
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
For the field placement, so in reference, it says it was 16 hours and someone mentioned at least one of those days is 8 hours of commitment.
Here she comes.
Yes. Okay, so then it's that one day of 8 hours, and then can those other 8 hours be spread out throughout the week?
It can be spread out, but not like 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. So it could be 1 8-hour day and then maybe 2 4-hour days. But that's kind of negotiable, but it can't be, I'm gonna do an 8-hour day and then 2 or 1. It has to have some kind of, you have to be there for a chunk of time, otherwise you're not integrating what you're learning.
Yeah, and that's normally unpaid, correct?
Yes, yes. There are some agencies that will pay a stipend for students in their field placement, but they usually are looking for some type of specialization, be it language, be it, you know, you may be trained in motivational interviewing, something like that. They're looking for a specialization. And it's nowadays it's less agencies that'll pay a stipend than before. So some agencies do, but most of it, yes, it is unpaid hours. Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay. So what if you get called for an interview and you are living abroad for a period of time? How would you go about the interview process?
Well, we have, especially for online cohorts, we'll do everything online. So we'll use a Zoom platform to be able to interview you as a group. But even if you are looking at like a program, like one of our campus programs, we can figure out how to accommodate you and make sure we get an online program. Yes, great question. Back here? Yes, sir.
Is the field placement, can you change that per semester, just to give yourself more of a sampling of what might interest you, or how long is that commitment?
So you will have two.
You have two academic years of field education. And so once you're placed in an agency, you'll be there for that one academic year, and then your second year, you'll be there for another academic year. And the reason behind that is that we know it takes a certain amount of hours to be in the field to learn what the objectives that we want you to learn and the curriculum competencies that we need to adhere to from CSWE, but it's putting students in internships and agencies where you work with clients. Even internships can be interruptive to clients. So the longer we're there, the more respectful we are to the client. So we're only there 9 months. And so to have people go in and out is not really, we're not working from a lens of cultural humility in terms of people needing services and what that means. Because you're opening up your lives to, to strangers. And so if we have people rotating all the time, then we're asking clients to have to open up old wounds, tell their stories, their narratives again and again and again. So being there for 9 months supports your learning, but it's also very respectful of us being able to work in the community with clients in the community.
So the same one for 2 years?
The same, no, one
1 year.
for 1 year and then the second year. Because we do want you to get some level of, various experiences. And within agencies, it depends. You may rotate, like hospitals, you can do a rotation. You can be on this unit or that unit. And some agencies have various programs. So you'll get a full, gambit of experiences within that one agency.
So also just something worth considering is when you're in your field placement, you also have a variety of ways to engage in different aspects of that field placement's world, right? So like from the curriculum side, like we have a lot of classroom-based projects that you can apply in your field placement setting. So if you're doing predominantly like, direct service case management or work with an individual, but then you decide to do your grad project on something based in your field placement, the way you engage with that field placement and the kind of variety of work that you do in the field placement could be more expanded upon than you might have initially thought. So there's like a variety of different ways to see different aspects of one organization, even if you don't change your field placement. Does that make sense?
Last question, then we're gonna separate.
Transcripts, what's the deadline for that? If I'm barely, almost a 2.5, but I'm not a 2.5, but I'm taking classes right now to try to get that 2.5 up.
Great question. So you're gonna have the deadline of the application deadline for your transcripts as they stand when you apply. So you will turn it in, even if it says 2.4999, like Jessica talked about. But you will also let us know with a note in your application that I'm actively taking other classes to get my GPA up. That'll be a part of your application that we will review. And then, but please know that if you're accepted into our program, it's conditional that that GPA is above a 2.5.
So as soon as those grades post, send those official transcripts again. So you're gonna send your official transcripts as of right now, your current classes that you're taking. And then as soon as those grades post in December, they'll go ahead and resend those official transcripts over so we can recalculate your GPA. And then a perfect place to put it in the note is in the personal statement. After you answer all 6 questions, just put, I'm currently taking classes to raise my GPA, just so we are aware that that's what's happening.
Okay, so if you would, Jessica's gonna be over here. Gretchen Serrano is also someone who is a huge source of information. She's not with us tonight, but Dr. Joy Brown is here in her place, so she will be able to answer your online offsite questions over here. Jolene Swain and Julie Gould and Marjorie Chase can take all things field and stipends. McCarty Kaplan and Dr. Acuna